here today with Maria Marlow, and we are going to talk all about our gut and honestly about acne, which has sadly been a huge topic of conversation in my household. I have 3 boys, and which maybe for some people that is surprising that we talk about acne all the time, but we do. I personally have been a sufferer of acne, and I dealt with acne as a teenager. And then for me, it dissipated a lot in my like 20s and 30s and came back. And I actually went on Accutane in my 40s, which might sound shocking, but I did because I just couldn't deal with it anymore. And Accutane is pretty controversial still. And for someone who is like a hardcore health and wellness, I'm very clean. I don't eat like anything with chemicals or anything. The idea that I took Accutane is like very shocking to most people and shocking to myself. That's how like livid I was with my skin. I have 3 boys, like I said, who have all had acne issues. My youngest is 15 and we're just starting to deal with it. So personally, this conversation is like really fantastic to have with you. And I'm really excited to talk to you just, for my own self and my own sort of, what we're dealing with over here in my household. But also, I think this is just so on brand and so topical and what a lot of people love to hear about. And just so that I get to ask you questions directly makes me super excited. But more importantly, I am, as so many people are, just really interested and really excited to do, pardon the pun, deep dives into how our gut is just truly the center of our body and how it affects everything that's going on. And I've done multiple episodes and conversations about how our gut controls so much about what happens in our body, from our brains to just everything. And I'll let you really talk about this. But tell us, just to begin with, who you are, where you're from, how you got into this. You're beautiful and you're so well spoken. And why is this what you're passionate about? And just sort of dive right in and just let's get into this.
Sure. Well, first off, I just want to say don't kick yourself for taking Accutane. Like, I know how frustrating acne is because I had it. It's the worst. And because it's not just physical, I always say this, it's not just physical, it's like mental and emotional as well, because it's your face, it's how you show up in the world. And so you got to do what you got to do. And if that was the solution that was working the best and the fastest for you at the time, then, there's no shame there. To give you a little bit of backstory about how I got here. I had acne for about 4.5 years, and I tried all the things. It started with the drugstore, the Clean and Clear, the Clearasil. Then I was doing the infomercial Proactive, and then that didn't work. And then I was going to the dermatologist and was prescribed the whole sort of totem pole of medications, from antibiotics at first. Then they put me on birth control. I was on spironolactone. I was on topical retinoids. I was on all sorts of different things. None of them worked. All right. Or it would work for a period of time and then the acne would come back, and sometimes even worse. So finally, towards the end of that period, after like a couple of years, my dermatologist did prescribe Accutane. Because also back in those days, it was a lot harder to get Accutane prescription. It was really reserved for like, okay, we've tried all the other medications and nothing is working, so let's try this. So I remember filling the prescription, and stapled to the front of the bag is the how to use the medication and the side effects. And I just happened to see, for some reason, it was like staring out at me on that piece of paper. And one of the side effects was severe depression that could lead to suicide. And I was like, what? For an acne medication? Like, how is this even possible? And I was pretty depressed at the time. I was very upset over my skin because I had been struggling for so many years and I was doing everything I was told to do. I'm a very type A person. So if you're like, okay, if you want to clear your skin, take this medication, use this face wash, I'm doing it. I'm doing it to a T. And I was doing it exactly as I was told, and my skin was not clearing up. So I thought must have been something wrong with me. Because what other explanation could there be? Like, every doctor was telling me what to do. That wasn't working. All the magazines and the sort of information that was available at the time was saying, okay, this is what you have to do. None of it was working. So I had just internalized, okay, I have bad genes. I have bad luck. Maybe it's bad karma. I don't know. I must have did something wrong in my previous life because I had really bad acne. So anyway,
But
I
it's your
decided
face.
it's your face.
It's
Yeah.
like, it's your face. My oldest son was actually his back. And so it didn't bother him until he would like go to the beach. And we lived in LA and it was like, oh my God, but it's your face and it's so hard. It's so upsetting.
It's so upsetting. I remember I literally had a nervous breakdown. I remember having a nervous breakdown in the mirror. I remember being in the bathroom, looking at my skin, crying like hysterically because I was like, "Oh, I don't understand. I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do. It's not clearing up." So anyway, I decided, okay, I'm not going to actually take the prescription because nothing else had worked for me. I don't want to risk this side effect because I'm already depressed. So that was it. I was just going to like go on with my life. Fast forward, I'm in college. I'm sitting down to lunch with a friend and complaining about my skin. And she goes, your skin, it might actually be caused by what you're eating. And I looked at her like she was crazy at first because I'd been to all these different dermatologists and not one of them ever asked me what I was eating. But I was just so desperate to try anything that I was like, okay, just tell me what to do, point me in the direction, and I'll do what I have to do. So she introduced me to this whole concept of like organic food and whole foods. And, my lunch that day was 2 slices of pizza, Entenmann's chocolate chip cookies, and a Coca-Cola. So that's what I was eating. I was eating a lot of processed foods, only processed foods, really. And so she kind of introduced me to this whole new world. And long story short, my skin cleared up in about 3 months. And I was like, what? I actually didn't believe it. I said, this must be a miracle. This is not actually the food. There's no way. Like, I can't, I still couldn't believe that it could be the food. So I went back to eating the pizza and the cookies and the Coca-Cola. And of course, I broke out right away. And I was like, oh, okay. So it is the food. It's actually the food. So that really just changed the whole trajectory of my life because it was so mind-blowing to see in the mirror, okay, when I eat these foods, my skin is red and inflamed and broken out. And when I eat these other foods, the redness is going down, the bumps are going down, my skin is looking better. And I basically decided to change career path to study nutrition and really make it my mission to educate people about the connection between our diet and gut health and our skin, particularly with acne, because nobody was really talking about it at the time. I mean, this is over a decade ago. Now I think there is a bit more of a conversation now. There's also a big emphasis on gut health now. So that's amazing. But back then, literally nobody was talking about it. And in fact, if you asked, oh, does diet affect my skin? Most doctors would say no, so
Most
we've
doctors
come a
would
long
say,
way.
just wash your hands and don't put the grease on your face. Like if you're going to eat pizza, just make sure you wash your hands and don't wipe, the greasy pizza grease on your face and you'll be fine. And you're like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Like
Yeah.
not understanding that like the crap that you're putting in your stomach is actually sprouting itself onto your
Yeah.
face.
What's mind blowing to me, again, I think today in 2025, there's a much bigger and broader conversation on food and how it affects our health. There is a growing number of people who understand, okay, what I eat is affecting more than my weight. It's affecting my mood. It's affecting my immune system. It's affecting this. It's affecting that, my skin, everything. But there's still a larger population that I think just thinks, oh, food just affects your weight. What I always tell people is if you think about any medication that you're taking, even an Advil, right? It's a teeny tiny little pill. So if a teeny tiny little pill that you can swallow can, make your headache go away or, I don't know, kill some bacterial infection that you have or whatever it is, what do you think the 3 to 5 pounds of food you're eating every day is doing, right? It's going down the same digestive tract. So surely the foods that you're eating are having an impact on your body.
Absolutely. And think about, by the way, when you take a teeny tiny Advil, think about all of the warning signs and the possible, repercussions and side effects that are on that box. That you have to be told, that the FDA makes sure that they put on there. Like that one teeny tiny pill of Advil can lead to XYZ, ABC, LMNOP. Like think about that. versus, like you said, the 3 to 5 pounds or one giant pizza. Like that's a big deal. So,
Yeah. I really believe, that food is our medicine. That's something that
of
I've
course,
come to believe. And food is our medicine and our lifestyles are medicine too. The longer I've been doing this, I also realize how much, even our thoughts, our stress levels, these things are also affecting our health. But definitely our gut, our diets, our stress levels, all of these things have an impact.
I relate to this conversation many different levels. Obviously, there's the sheer health and wellness piece of this, which is why I do this, and then my personal side of it, which is with my own family, my kids, and what I've told my kids recently is when they're in the throes of puberty, which I've been through too, and now I'm in the throes of it with my third child. Is there's only so much you can control. Like your hormones are like bouncing off the walls right now inside your body all over the place. And that is out of your control. Like that is what it is. You grew 6 inches last year. You're just bananas. But you can control some things right now. So you can control what you put in your body and you can control what you do with your body. But the other stuff you can't. So the way your hormones are going to go, there's stuff that you can't do. Like your body's going to do things that your hair is changing, your skin is changing, you're growing, like there's all sorts of things happening. But you can control what you eat, what you drink, and what you do with your body. How you exercise, how you sleep, how you treat yourself, how you study, all those things, and what you eat and you drink. Like you can control those things, and that will absolutely affect this journey and the journey for the rest of your life. So, talking to 15, 16, 17, 18, 19-year-old, 20-something-year-old boys in particular, some of it goes in one ear and out the other. We hope that some of it stays in their head. If I say it 7 million times, I feel like I have a chance of a little bit sticking. What is in our control, we have to be able to make good informed decisions. And I think that's exactly what you're saying, right? That what we can control, we should. And we should do it by making really good, knowledgeable decisions about our health and wellness and our preventive care. And what we put inside of our body is, helping to prevent all sorts of things happening that we don't have to have happen. Knowing that there's things that we absolutely cannot, and that's okay. Like that's okay. But what we can, we should. So let's talk about that. Like what is it that we can do to make good decisions? I've read a lot about what you've said, and just take me through a day. Like take me through a good day, knowing that no one's perfect, knowing that not everyone has access to the same kinds of things. But let's say in a perfect world and you're in a really great city with access to lots of different choices. What are the choices that you would make, starting your day 7 a.m. to, 8 p.m., let's say?
Absolutely. One thing I'll just throw in there because you had mentioned how hard it is with teenagers, particularly boys. I totally get it. I totally understand that. So one thing that I find is helpful for younger people in particular is talking about upgrades. So if you like salt and vinegar chips or Doritos or whatever your sort of junk food du jour is, finding the upgrade for it. Because I guarantee you, if you go to Whole Foods or Erewhon or Google search, you will find a healthier version of
Oh,
every
yeah.
single junk food that's made with better oils, with less ingredients, more whole food ingredients. And it may not be perfect. I'm not saying like, the salt and vinegar chips made with avocado oil is a health food compared to the one that's made with, corn oil, but it's an upgrade and it is going to make a difference and an impact while you're still getting the crunch and the taste and the flavor that you want. So I find like with teens, focusing on the upgrades, I think can be really helpful.
I think that is a beautiful, beautiful solution and a beautiful piece of advice. Yeah, my son's always like, our pantry sucks. And his friends come over and they're like, what does your mom buy? And he's like, we're from LA. You should see what we have. You should see it. It's insane. And I'm like, it is what it is. And the truth is, he actually likes it. It just looks
Yeah.
ridiculous compared to what other, kids are
Yeah.
eating.
And
But
it's
I
hard.
totally agree with that.
The peer pressure and everything and all of that stuff and the temptation. And so I get it. It's not an easy road all the time. So you're not alone. You're not alone in that. And your sons are
It's
not
a
alone in
really
that.
wonderful piece of advice. And, and you take it in baby steps. I agree.
Exactly. And exactly. It's all baby steps. The baby steps lead up to big results. So, okay, if we're talking about a day, starting the day, first of all, how you sleep is actually really important. So, getting into a good routine so that your circadian rhythm is basically in balance and you're waking up with the sun, ideally getting some sunlight. I know it sounds crazy, but it can be helpful because when you get sunlight in the morning, that's also helping with your sleep. And if you're sleeping well, that's less stress on your body, especially for younger people who are maybe staying up late or, their schedules a bit all over the place. That disruption can cause some stress on the body, which could also be contributing to acne. So that could maybe be one. And again, you don't have to take every tip here, but take what works. So getting up, getting some sunshine, some sunlight in your eyes, that's always helpful. And that could just be as simple as opening your curtains and looking out the window. Then starting with a good breakfast, I think is really important because we want to keep our blood sugar stable. If you don't have a lot of time, doing a fruit and protein smoothie, I think is a great way. So I have a recipe on my website. I call it Complexion Perfection Smoothie. And it's made with blueberries, banana. It's made with pumpkin seed protein, which I really love for acne, people with acne in particular, because it's essentially just ground up pumpkin seeds. And so it's very high in magnesium and zinc. So magnesium, our body, it needs that for dealing with stress. And stress can actually be a trigger for acne, which we can talk more about when we get to the whole gut, brain, skin connection. But magnesium is also a very common deficiency, and we need it, especially in the stressful life that we live. So it has magnesium, about 50% of your daily needs in, your scoop of protein powder in the morning. And it also contains about 50% of your needs for zinc. So zinc is needed for wound healing, and it's also helpful for balancing sebum production or oil production. So I really love, for anyone with acne prone skin, I truly believe pumpkin seed protein powder is the best protein powder to be using for you. I also like throwing collagen in there. That's optional, some grass-fed collagen. But I like that because, again, it's just going to help with your skin, with any wound repair, especially if you're picking anything,
Mhm.
which I know sometimes happens, right? We're all human. So that will be helpful there. There's a tablespoon of flaxseed in there. Flax is a really great source of omega 3s, which provide anti inflammatory benefits. It's also a good source of fiber. And fiber is really important. Regularity is super duper important for acne prone skin. And especially in those, sort of hormonal fluctuation years, those puberty years, because the way that the body excretes excess hormones is through the stool. So if we're not excreting regularly and completely, that can contribute to some of the hormonal havoc that could be happening during those times. So it's really important that we're making sure that we're regular. Those are kind of the main ingredients for the smoothie. So I really like that if you don't have time, or if you do have time, making a well-balanced plate. I love eggs, also like a veggie omelet with eggs could be good as well. And just trying to hit about 20 to 30 grams of protein for your breakfast. That's going to keep your blood sugar stable and help to prevent any sugar cravings throughout the rest of the day. So that's how I'd start. I would also take a probiotic. I think probiotics are super important for acne prone skin because there is a lot of research on the differences between the guts of people with acne versus clear skin. So what the studies show is that people with acne tend to lack some of the good lactobacillus and bifidobacteria strains in their gut. And these are the strains that provide anti-inflammatory benefits. So they tend to have more of the bacteria that are promoting inflammation in the body. And acne is an inflammatory skin disorder. So really what we want to do with our diet and our lifestyle is reduce inflammation. So any habits, any foods that are going to reduce inflammation are going to be helpful for your skin. We also know that people with acne tend to lack like bacterial diversity. So they don't really have a lot of strains or enough strains. And they are more likely to have what's called increased intestinal permeability or leaky gut. And all of these factors contribute to inflammation. And that's where the probiotic comes in. A probiotic is going to help reseed the gut with the good lactobacillus and bifidobacteria strains, help with leaky gut, and help to just support overall digestion and regularity. So I definitely recommend taking a high quality probiotic. So much so, I actually formulated one called Glow Biome that's specifically for acne prone skin with 6 different strains that are clinically shown to support that gut skin connection. So that's really important. I also really like cod liver oil. cod liver oil is something I remember my mom, like my grandma talking about this and my mom saying like, oh, whenever we were sick, her mom would give her cod liver oil.
Yeah.
Cod liver oil is a skin superfood. It is an absolute skin superfood, a high quality one, because there are some bad ones on the market that, the oil's rancid and you wouldn't want to take them. But a high quality one is going to have omega-3 and naturally occurring vitamin A and vitamin D. So omega-3, vitamin A, and vitamin D are common deficiencies amongst people with acne. So omega-3 is going to help reduce inflammation. Vitamin A helps with skin cell turnover. If you have leaky gut, vitamin D is very helpful. So cod liver oil is really helpful. And so that would be my morning. A healthy breakfast, a couple supplements, some sunshine. Then when you get to lunch and dinner, I would like to kind of think of the plate as a pie chart. You want about 50% of that pie chart to be vegetables, ideally cooked, because if we're dealing with acne, there is likely some level of gut dysbiosis in there. And the cooked vegetables are just going to be easier to digest than raw. Then you also want to have some protein. So wild salmon is a favorite of mine because that's also a naturally rich source of omega-3, which omega-3, like you'll hear me talk about. I'm sure if you look at anything I do, I'm always talking about omega-3s because they're so important, especially again in this day and age where our packaged foods, our restaurant foods, these are all going to be high in vegetable oils, which are omega-6. So the omega-6 and the omega-3 kind of like compete in the body, let's say. And so the more omega-6 that we eat, the more omega-3 that we actually need. So we really need to bring those, levels more equal. Whereas in the American diet, we're eating a lot more omega-6 than omega-3. So omega-3 is just so, so important. So I love wild salmon, anchovies, mackerel, any of these like fatty fish are a good source of omega-3. You could also do like a grass-fed beef or bison or whatever you like. And so that's about another quarter of your plate. And then the other quarter of your plate could be whole grains. It could be, beans or lentils. And you definitely want some healthy fat on top as well. So maybe you're cooking in olive oil or you have some avocado, nuts, seeds, whatever. That's kind of like your lunch and dinner. And, if you want something sweet, it's totally fine. But I always recommend not snacking, like not having a sweet snack. If you want to have a snack in the middle of the day, go for it. But go for something like hummus and, crudité, like fresh vegetables. Basically, you want something savory. If you're having something sweet on an empty stomach, that can contribute to blood sugar imbalances. And that's what we really want to prevent for acne-prone skin. Now, once in a while, it's not a big deal. It's when those blood sugar imbalances become chronic. They become all day long, every day. So if you want dessert, eat it after your lunch or eat it after your dinner. Eat it after you have that well-balanced meal and you're not going to, have a problem. And I would say another thing to do during the day is get some movement in. And you may think, okay, we're talking about acne. What does movement have to do with it? But movement's really important. It's important for regularity. So sometimes, if you are a bit more constipated, simply adding movement and walking can actually help with regularity. Also drinking enough water, that's important. Eating your fiber, of course. But movement's good for that, for regularity and digestion. It's good for keeping your blood sugar balanced if you're walking after meals. It's getting your blood flowing and your lymph flowing, which is really important because we want to make sure that everything is moving and nothing is really stagnant. And also if you're sweating, if you're doing exercise, that's going to just kind of help you sweat out whatever you need to sweat out. So having some movement in the day and then just, I think, getting a good night's rest. So I feel like that was a long prescription, but that was what a day looks like.
No, that's perfect. I think that's lovely. And you were mentioning what you were saying when we get into the gut-brain connection. Tell me more about that.
So the gut-brain-skin connection is fascinating. So when we're in utero, the gut, the brain, and the skin are actually like formed from the same tissue. So they kind of start as the same and then they kind of, morph into their own different organs. But they always maintain this connection, this sort of two-way communication or feedback loop such that whatever happens in one of these organs or with one of these organs is going to affect the others. So if you've ever blushed when you were embarrassed, that's an example of a thought, your brain affecting your skin. Or if you've lost your appetite when you were upset, again, that's a thought, so your brain affecting your gut. And it goes both ways. So it kind of seems like a newer concept because we're talking about it now, but it's not. So even as far back as almost 100 years ago, there were two dermatologists, John H. Stokes and Donald M. Pillsbury, who basically set the foundation for what we now call the gut-brain-skin connection. And what they observed with their patients was that the ones that had acne tended to be a little bit more stressed and anxious than their other patients. And they hypothesized that the stressful thoughts could actually disrupt the gut, create gut problems, which would create inflammation in the body, which would then show up as inflammation of the skin. And the crazy thing is, they did some experiments, and even in the decades since, other people have done experiments, and their hypothesis has been proven true. We do know that stressful thoughts disrupt the gut and can actually cause breakouts. The stressful thoughts actually wipe out some of the good bacteria in the gut, and that allows some of those bad pro-inflammatory bacteria to grow or take hold, promoting inflammation in the body. And also, stressful thoughts can also contribute to leaky gut. So the stressful thoughts are actually taking a toll on your digestive system. And then that inflammation that's being created in your digestive system is now in your bloodstream. So now that inflammation is there and it can show up on your skin as breakouts. So it's quite fascinating.
That's amazing. It's so intuitive though. It's like our whole body's connected. There's no question about it. And the idea that stress is so powerful and lack of sleep, and when you travel and you're jet lagged and you're upside down and you don't go to the bathroom properly, like all of these things are so interconnected and interwoven in our body that the idea that if maybe you're prone to different ways of it showing up on your body, that to break out and to have inflammation, show up on your skin. I have a friend who gets, rosacea, and her skin just gets, so red. And anytime she's sick or she's fighting an illness or she's stressed out, overtired, that's what happens. It's so intuitive, but it's like one of those things that when it happens, you're like, oh, I can't believe this is happening to me. And you're like, but you can,
Yeah,
actually.
it is and it's not, because I feel like we're, again, in modern society, we're kind of disconnected, or I would say even misled. I grew up with, okay, whatever ailment you have, you go to the doctor and you get a prescription for it. So we're kind of disconnected. We're kind of disconnected from like the cause and the effect of what we're doing. And so, you brought up rosacea, which is also interesting. That's another skin disorder. Any of these chronic inflammatory skin disorders typically have a gut origin. So with rosacea, there is a link to something called SIBO, or small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. So it's interesting because you mentioned, like, yeah, for certain people, it might show up as acne. For other people, it's rosacea. For other people, it's this or that. And it is interesting. We don't have all the answers, but it seems that whatever that disruption in the gut is, like, can show up as different ailments on the skin.
Yeah. We treat the symptoms. We don't treat the cause. And I think we're also living in this society where we cover it up. And so I don't have girls, as I've said 100 times. I have 3 boys. But also with younger and younger girls, which it is what it is, but it like stabs my heart in so many ways, with this new world of makeup and like the covering up and the like deep foundation that girls wear. And so you have girls who have, going through periods of puberty or whatever with skin issues. And the answer is to like pack so much makeup on and to cover their skin, dealing with the symptom and not the cause and not the issue. And to me, it's like even more of this disconnectedness and even more of this like, well, let's just sort of forget what the problem is and not really address the issue of whatever's causing it, whether it's the food or what they're eating or their stress or lack of sleep or anxiety or this intense need to like look perfect or be someone they're not. I don't know. It freaks me out.
Yeah, I think in this day and age of social media, growing up now, especially as a girl, but even as a boy, I think it would be really tough
It is
because
tough.
there's just so much pressure and and there's so much fakeness, right? There's filters, everything's filtered and even augmented, right? Like people are augmenting their face which everyone can do whatever they want to do. But what's happening is we're forgetting what a normal human face looks like, I think, and what aging also looks like, normal aging looks like. There are some people, there are these glimmers of hope where people are kind of talking out and, helping also the younger generation realize that you don't need to, everything doesn't need to be filtered and it's okay to age, so I do like that conversation. But I will say with makeup, you know how it is when it's on your face and it's crushing your self-confidence often. I do
Totally.
think there is a movement now, which is kind of cool, where like people are a bit more proud, like, oh, I have acne, it's okay. But I mean, I remember when I had acne, I wanted to run and hide. Like I would cancel, I would skip school, I would cancel meeting people and stuff like that. So I think the makeup is just a tool to like feel a bit more confident going out there. So
I agree. I
and
think
there
it makes it worse though in some ways. I think it's
it
not like
depends. There are
yeah.
some brands, of makeup that are better than others. Like some brands are going to be more comedogenic and especially for acne prone skin could contribute to some issues. But there are other brands that, that are non-comedogenic that could be better just to like give you that confidence boost. So I think that's okay. I think the biggest problem is that there's not so much readily available knowledge about these underlying root causes. Like, I think when we think of acne and we think of acne skincare, we're thinking of just really topical, okay, or a medication. Most people are not thinking diet. They're not thinking keeping their blood sugar stable. They're not thinking gut microbiome and probiotics because it's not a widely held conversation. And I think that's what really needs to change is the way that we think about skincare needs to change because it's not just topical. Sure, we need to wash our face, put moisturizer on. Yeah, that's great. You have to do that. But our skin has two sides. It has the outside and it has the inside. And everything that you're eating, your blood is what's nourishing your skin. That's another issue with people with acne is nutrient deficiencies. So even if you eat a very healthy diet, everyone is vegan or paleo or keto or this or that or whatever it is. And, certain food groups are sometimes cut out, in which case, or it doesn't even have to be a diet like that. It could just be like someone's like, oh, I really don't like seafood. So I don't eat seafood, or I really don't like this. So I don't eat this. And if you're not eating other foods that are going to make up for the nutrients that food, that you cut out has, you can end up with a deficiency, even if your overall diet is actually pretty healthy. And it could just be a matter of fixing that one nutrient deficiency that can make a big change. And then the other issue is maybe you are eating all the nutrients. Maybe you really do have a well balanced diet, which is amazing. But maybe your gut health is compromised. So you're not actually absorbing the nutrients. And that's the problem, right? So there's all these different little pieces of the puzzle. So it's a matter of putting the puzzle pieces together. And I know that took a lot more, it's more time consuming and requires a lot more work than just like, oh, let me put this cream on. So I think it's just, we need to keep having these conversations. So I really appreciate you having me on to kind of talk about this stuff because a lot of people are not aware, or they're not fully aware that, sugar, okay, everybody knows sugar is not great for us. It's not great for our skin. But beyond that, unless you're really diving deep into the subject, you're not going to really hear about all these different diet and lifestyle factors that play a role.
I also think it's at the end of the day, and this is like my other mantras, it's knowing your body. And so what works for me and my diet, and it changes as we grow and our bodies change, in different decades and different times in our life, pre and post puberty, pre and post, through perimenopause, my body is very different than it was in my 30s and even early 40s. And my body will be very different, when I go through menopause. But I know what my normal is. Like I know what I need to do to be stable. I know my body now and what works and what I need in terms of my diet and my supplements. Like I've got it. And I've worked really hard on that. Like I've got, through my blood work and then also just like what I know. And I know when I'm outside of that, like I know how much sleep I need. I know the breakfast I need to have. And I'm like extraordinarily regimented. I mean, I'm like the most compulsive human. And, I was telling you, I traveled to New York last weekend and I was off for 2 days. Like I felt it in my body. My husband felt it. Like everyone around me knew, like, oh, mom's a little off because I just was outside of my normal regimen. And I think that's like the downside from being so regimented of my eat and my sleep and my diet and my pattern. And that's okay for me because like that's how I am. But that is like one of the things that as people we need to do in order to be able to get there. It's really hard for most people, and it's really hard, for the average person to be able to like take the time to get to do that. But I think if we put the effort in, as a collective, then you see it, you feel it. Like you feel the glow, you feel it in your skin, you see it in the mirror, and you feel it in your body. You know when you feel good. You know when you have the right amount of energy to be like up and at it throughout your day. You just know. And those days when you like, you don't look great and you don't feel great and you have to sort of push your way through those 24 hours. You know how you want to feel, right? And you know how you want to look. But it's hard. It really is. But I think knowing that it is attainable and knowing that there's really solid, good information that we can get and that's out there is pretty positive, and it's pretty awesome. And that people are doing, like you, that are doing the research through your own trial and error, right? Like you live through it. You live through the days of pizza and Coke and Doritos where you're like, really, this isn't what's working for me? And then you figured out that no, actually, I know what works for me. And I know actually that this is a prescription that will work for most people. That's pretty awesome. Like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And what I always say is acne is a blessing in disguise. And I know it doesn't seem that way, but because it is on our face, it does usually prompt us to do a little bit more digging. And like, if things are not working, where it's kind of trying to do all the things to figure it out. And the result of that is once you do get to the root of it, it can really help improve your overall health, right? Because if you're clearing your acne, you're probably, improving your gut health. That's going to also improve your immune system. That's going to also improve your mood, right? So it's really this whole sort of ripple effect once we really go to the root.
It's true. And I think that one of your original analogies about like, if you take an Advil, like it's a teeny tiny pill, like it really does. Imagine that like makes your headache go away. So the idea that what you eat and drink has such an incredible effect on your whole body, it shouldn't be so mind-blowing, like it really makes sense. So we shouldn't be so like overwhelmed by the fact that, like soda, just drinking a can of soda, drinking a Coke, like it has such a huge effect on your body. And if you read the ingredients, like, yeah, once in a blue moon, great. But like if that's a huge part of your diet, the idea that that's not going to affect your skin, it's like,
Yeah. And it's all about baby steps. I think everyone's at different points and everybody has different inclinations, right? So I think whenever you're making a change, whether it's for acne or any other ailment, you want to keep your eyes on the prize. So what is your goal? Is it clear skin? Is it this or is it that? And then just make one baby step at a time. So if you are drinking soda, for example, switch to water. And you don't even have to change anything else. Just do that for 2 weeks and start to see how you feel. Start to see how your skin changes and how everything else changes in your body. Then once you feel comfortable with this and you're like, you know what? I like water. It's not so bad. If I put some lemon in it or I put some cucumbers or whatever it is, it's not so bad. Then start with the next thing. Okay, now my 3 p.m. cookie break. Okay, what can I replace that with? Maybe it's dates with nut butter, or I don't know. If you're in LA, you go to Air One, you can find all sorts of crazy, delicious, yummy things, So it's just baby steps. And really, if you do one thing for 2 weeks, make it a habit, then do another thing for 2 weeks, make it a habit. Over a period of three months, you're not even going to recognize yourself, Just baby steps really, really do lead up to big results.
They definitely do. I remember when I gave up Diet Coke and I went down to 1 can a day, and I would leave the can open in the refrigerator all day and just take sips. And then I just gave it up. I have one once in a while when I'm traveling and there's something in me that like needs it to like get over the jet lag or something, but that's like once a year. And I just gave it. I was like, I don't want this anymore. And now you drink and it just kind of tastes, for me, it just tastes like battery oil or something. But I drank a lot of Diet Coke for a really long time. And I asked one day, I think I was in my early 40s, it's like, I'm just done. Like, I'm just done with Diet Coke. I'm just going to give it up. And it was a big deal. And then I was like, yeah, this is that. I'm done. Like, I'm done with this. And it's like almost 10 years. That's it. But it is hard. I mean, it's like a choice. You just had to make the choice.
Yeah, and it gets easier, right? So like now it's probably not so hard. In the beginning it was hard, but over time your taste buds get used to a new way of eating and you eventually don't even really miss it anymore. Give yourself a little time and patience and eventually you'll find like for me, I could not imagine not wanting to eat cookies, not wanting to eat cake, not wanting to eat like candy and all this stuff because I was eating it every single day before. And just with changing my diet and focusing on what I added in before I focus on what I took out, that actually made all the difference because now I was being fueled by nutrients and I was eating things that had fiber and protein and healthy fats that were actually filling me up. So I wasn't a bottomless pit to eat the entire bag of Doritos or whatever it was. And once I added those foods in, over time, your palate changes. So if I were to have a Dorito or if I was to have an M&M, like, oh, that's disgusting. It's so sweet. Or, oh, this is too this or too that. And you don't actually like it anymore once your
Yeah.
taste buds get recalibrated to real whole foods.
Yeah. It's true. It's true. Well, this is awesome. Thank you so much. And thank you for putting this out in the world. I think it's so important. And I think this whole conversation of the gut brain and gut skin connection is really wonderful. And like I said, it's when you really think about it, it's quite intuitive. But I really enjoy hearing about the way that you're doing it is so wonderful. And the way you talk specifically about the gut skin connection is in a way that I haven't heard it done before. And I'm really grateful for it. And I think it's making a huge impact on so many people's lives because having bad skin or troubled skin or inflamed skin is really tough. It's really sucks and it's really hard to cover. COVID was really good to a lot of people because for a long time, everyone I knew got like so many peels done during COVID because they were like, sweet, I can wear a mask and do all these crazy peels on my face and look scary and deal with all the, the weird scars that it had for during, when they had acne or whatever. But then, we took our masks off and we couldn't do that anymore, or couldn't, do that without staying home for 3 weeks. But this was really lovely and I'm really happy to meet you. And I hope we can continue these conversations in other formats and maybe do things in person. So thank you so much. Enjoy your time with your family and hopefully we'll have to do some more things together.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.